Hello, good evening. This is Dr. Joe on this very nice Wednesday here in the Washington, D.C. area. Hope all is well with you. Hope you have a great day and you're having a great week and so on. It's a good day for me. And congratulations also. Shout out to Femi. Everything is all set. He got his rent determination for his tenant today. And so his tenant will be moving to his property tomorrow, 6-bedroom tenant. Oh, it's an amazing story. Lots of ups and downs. We got through to the end. And so she's moving in officially tomorrow. And the rent is $6,188. So congratulations to him. That's approved. 6-bedroom voucher holder here in Washington, D.C. $6,188 is the approved rent. And you won't believe the tenant's portion. And it is absolutely zero. So she's living in a nice house, nice neighborhood, and for zero rent. So what do you have to say about that? Anyway, so that's Femi's story. Congratulations to Femi. It turned out really, really well. And next thing we're going to do is Corliss's property is on the roll. And hopefully we'll be starting Charles's property very shortly as well. So for those people who want to, I think we're kind of getting the framework now for this JV Wealth Builders program. So I think, I feel more comfortable now to share with you. And so for those people who are interested in working with me or have me work with you, I suppose, on your project, it's all about execution. It's all about taking the deal, taking it all the way from the beginning all the way through the end, and so on. So if you're interested in being a part of the JV Wealth Builders program, please let me know. And you can go to the website, jvwealthbuilders.com, jvwealthbuilders.com, and you can get more information there. Again, kudos to Femi. Congratulations on his tenant who will be moving in officially tomorrow, and so on. So anyway, so with that said and done, we're going to talk about today the pros and cons of property management companies. Also, yes, I was a guest speaker last week at an event here in Virginia. Very, very well. We had a great turnout. In fact, it was a capacity crowd. And so kudos. We talked about raising money. It was all about the money, how to raise private money. And I talked about my experiences and kind of what's worked for me and through the years. And we had a great Q&A session, a lot of good questions that were posed, and I think based on the feedback, it went really well. And so kudos to the folks down at Flipping Capital, and for inviting me. I have been invited to another. This time it's going to be in Richmond, Virginia. I think it's May the 14th. I'll be a guest speaker there. And I'll also be speaking at the end of the month as well. So I've been invited to a few places. So catch me, and definitely, if you're in any of the areas where I'm going to be speaking, I definitely look out to speak with you. Anyway, let's get down to today's session. We're going to focus on the pros and cons of property management companies. And the question is it worth it? So that's really, and why did I pick that? Because it's really, as a real estate, especially if you're a buy and hold investor, you're going to have to, you got an asset performing, you got a, what's it called? A performing asset, hopefully, which means that you're going to generate income, and which means that you're going to have to collect rent, take care of tenants, and all those kind of different things. Now, some people want to do it themselves, and some people don't want to be bothered with it and want to deal with management companies. So why is understanding property management companies crucial for real estate investors? Because if you're a buy and hold, you're looking for properties for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, then you're going to have to make some decisions as to, do you want to do the heavy lifting on managing these properties, or do you want to outsource it to a third party? So I think it's really important, especially if you want to scale your business. And so on. My experience with property management companies hasn't been the greatest. In theory, it makes a lot of sense, and but just finding good ones is not easy. There are some good ones out there, I'm sure. I just haven't found any. And that's not an indictment on the on the business per se or the industry. It's just that, it's just been my experience, just finding good ones. So I know they're out there. If you do have access to good ones, you want to keep them. It's just like contractors. If you find good ones, you want to keep them, and so on. So for real estate investors, particularly those ones who are trying to grow their portfolio, the decision to actually engage a property management company is really important. In fact, it could be very pivotal, and because from a day-to-day perspective, they can help you with peace of mind. They can take on the heavy lifting. They can sort of do the day-to-day operational activities and take those burdens from your shoulders. Things like handling tenant inquiries, emergencies, conducting regular maintenance, enforcing lease terms, all those things, property management companies can do to offload that from you. And it's definitely something to consider. As I said, I feel comfortable doing it myself. I manage all my properties myself, but I'm not, just because I can do it myself doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should do it. It just depends a lot on your personality and your patience and the systems that you put in place. So a well-chosen property management company, they're worth their weight in gold. They can enhance tenant satisfaction, ensure you get a steady stream of cash flow, efficient rent collections, and they can preserve, the property's value, and maintain and upkeep the property through renovations and improvements and things like that. So there are benefits, but like all things, there are downsides as well. And it's not free. It costs money. That's going to come from your bottom line. And typically they charge a percentage of the total rent. And so which means that it's going to cut into your profitability, cut into your total cash flow. But one thing I've learned is that poor management, which is the crux of buy and hold investing, poor management can lead to tenant dissatisfaction, high turnover, and even, especially if you're in a landlord, a tenant-friendly area, legal issues, illegal exposure. And all those things can negatively impact your ability and your profitability as well. So there are pros and cons. And so today I'm going to focus on those things. So it's going to break into three parts. What are the benefits or the pros of property management? And part two is going to be the downsides, the cons associated with property management. And the third part, I'm going to talk about like a cost benefit analysis, total cost benefit analysis. And then you make the decision. Does it make sense for you? Is it something that you want to outsource to other parties? So in this live stream, we're going to talk about those different things. I'll share some of my experiences, mistakes that I've made, and and hopefully it'll enlighten you and give you some perspective as to which direction you want to go in. So what are the action items so far? I think depending on where you are in terms of your portfolio, if you have a portfolio, you may want to do an audit. In terms of your needs and, in terms of management needs and some of the challenges that you're currently experiencing, and see if it makes any sense to at least consider hiring a property management company. And number two action item at the beginning is to do some research on typically what the costs are in your area. And it could vary anywhere from 8, 10, 12, 14, 15% of the gross rent is that's how much some property management companies charge. So you want to kind of do some research into what's going on in your area, and and sort of compare the costs, and and determine whether it makes any sense for you. And the third thing is to develop a list of your criteria. What are you actually looking for? What are the pain points in your business that you feel that a property management company can help you with? So, what are those things? So put them down, write them down, and hopefully, as you make that determination whether to, use a property management or company or not, then at least you have some kind of checklist which you can sort of compare apples with apples. Okay, so let's get down to the details now. So let's talk about the pros, the benefits of property management. I suppose when I talk about the benefits, the question is, what are the primary benefits of using a property management company? What are the pros? What are the benefits associated with property management companies? And so really, the thing is that the decision to utilize a property management company, it really can be transformative. There are some landlords, buy and hold investors, they swear by property management company. They don't want to deal with the hassles associated with quote unquote tenants, toilets, and trash, as they say. They rather focus on what they're good at, which is maybe finding properties, renovating properties, and they kind of use third parties to actually manage the property. So, it does require some expertise to manage, to deal with people. You got to be a people person. You got to have systems in place. You got to be able to enforce rules, and you got to be able to handle some difficult situations. I've had some challenging situations with my tenants. Not all my tenants are great. I've had some very, very difficult ones, and ones that will drive me crazy. Sure, drive you crazy. You know, oh, anyway, we could talk about that in more detail another time. But there are different types of people. There are some tenants who don't want to pay their rent, always late. There's some tenants who want to, always push the envelope in terms of the rules. There may be X number of people in a house and they want to add X plus one or X plus two. Maybe you have a no pet policy and they want to sneak in a dog or a cat or multiple dogs and cats. There are some people who you got to stay on top of them, otherwise they'll destroy your property. And so there are different types of tenants out there. So your ability to manage those personalities is really important, and not everybody has those skill sets. You got to be able to conduct background checks. You got to verify employment. You got to sort of make sure there's a good match between what you're looking for and what they have to bring to the table. And me, I'm looking for tier one tenants because I found that if I get tier one tenants, it just makes my job a lot easier. These are tenants who are going to pay the rent, take care of the property, pleasant to deal with, and hopefully stay a long time. So screening is real key. And again, if you're going to hire a management company, they have experience in screening tenants, hopefully. And hopefully they'll do a better job than you. Not always, but in theory, they have the expertise and they have the experience in doing that. In order to attract what I call tier one tenants, at least quality tenants who are going to pay their rent on time, stay longer, and hopefully cause fewer problems. Additionally, another benefit of the property management company, in addition to screening, is just the day-to-day operations. And it can be burdensome. It can be frustrating. So they take on that responsibility. So that way you can focus on what you do well. Things like they'll focus on routine maintenance and emergency repairs, rent collection, and handling lease renewals. I mean, these are things that property management companies, that's the task that they do. And it does require some time and effort, and that's what they get paid for, to do it properly. Another thing is that property managers, their job is to stay on top of housing laws. There may be some changes in the laws in your locality. They're supposed to keep on top of that and to make sure that they don't go run foul of local laws and regulations. I mean, that's their job, and sometimes it's just a headache to know exactly what's going on at the city or state or federal level in terms of landlord tenant and fair housing. And these people, property management companies anyway, that's their jobs, and therefore, they're supposed to stay on top of those things. And the other thing is what I call operational, continuity. So if you have multiple properties, let's say 5, 10, 15 properties, sometimes you may just want to outsource all of it to one management company. So they have control and they manage everything for you. So you have essentially, rather than multiple or different management companies, you just have one. So you have a continuity of operations, and therefore they can centralize. They can put systems in place, and they can centralize some of these functions just because of they can scale things. I mean, they're set up for that, which you may not be able to do. So they can put certain logistical processes in place across all your properties, and therefore hopefully streamlining certain things. So what are some of the action items associated with the benefits I just talked about of using a property management company? So as I said before, evaluate your property management processes if you have any, and identify areas where you feel you're lacking, and identify areas where you feel a property management company can be of assistance to you, or at least improve your efficiency in your operations. Another action item is, assess the condition and how you are compliant for your property in all different areas, and see if a property management company can help you in that arena, especially things like local housing laws and regulations and rules, things like for notices, evictions. I mean, they just vary from place to place. So again, if you can stay on top of that, fine. If you can't, then it's always good to maybe think about having a third party. Another action item will be to consider your geographical distribution of your properties. All your properties in one place, in one area, one state, one city, one neighborhood, one street, or are they dispersed? If they're dispersed, maybe there's benefits in having a management company that can take on those responsibilities. So these are some of the action items associated with the benefits of using a property management company. And now I'm going to kind of talk about some of the drawbacks of property management, using a property management company. And so the question, I suppose, is, what are the potential drawbacks of hiring a property management company? It's not all roses. As I said, I've had some challenges. I've used property management companies in the past, and they just, I don't know, maybe it was just a luck of the draw. They just weren't, they didn't meet my expectations. As you know, I'm very thorough on screening. I actually do home visits. Property management companies typically won't do that. I found that I'm looking to have tenants who stay a long time, because turnover is so expensive, as you all know. And the management companies, they make money whenever there's a turnover. They make money because sometimes they find a construction company to do the repairs, the turnover, and they add a little cut or percentage on top of whatever they charge. Whenever there's a turnover, there's a new, they charge you for screening. They charge you for getting a new tenant, maybe take the security deposit. So, I mean, it can get expensive. Whereas for me, I want to have zero turnover and so on. So what are some of the drawbacks of hiring a property management company? So the first thing obviously is the cost. It's not free. So you're going to have to pay a fee to the management company, and it varies on the location, the number of property, the volume of business that you're giving to them. It could vary anywhere from 8 to 15% of the gross rent. So that's going to come straight off your your cash flow, and so on. And also some of them charge additional fees for things like tenant placement, maintenance work, and some other services. There's always an add-on to whatever they, so if they get a contractor to do, or maintenance person to do something for $100, they may tack on a certain percentage, 5, 10, 15, 20% on top of that, for their time, for their efforts, and so on. So it's not free, and these costs can add up pretty quickly, and they'll just eat into your profits. And especially if you can't control turnover, then you're making less money because a certain portion goes into the management company's coffers. But on top of that, you got these sort of variable costs which you are incurring every month. So these costs do add up, and they will definitely affect your the performance of the asset that you have. And also the other thing is a big turnoff is misalignment of interests. Everybody has their own hidden agenda, as I said. My agenda is to be able to get good tenants who stay a long time. And, you know, and sometimes especially if you have a big management company, you know, again, I'm not generalizing, but I'm saying that this can happen whereby you're just one client in a pool of 2, 3, 4, 5, 1,000 doors that they're managing. And so, you know, you could fall through the cracks and they may not get to you, you know, expediently and so on. So, you know, if you have a vacancy, it's a top priority for you because you're getting no income. You still got to pay the rent, mortgage. You still have to, you know, incur expenses. But if you're not a top priority to them, then it's going to cost you. They may get around to you after a few weeks or days or months or whatever it is, because you're just a small fry with one unit, maybe in a portfolio of several hundred. So, and sometimes again, you know, I don't want to, you know, belabor this point, but there are people with agendas, and you want to make sure that your agenda is in sync with their agenda, and especially in terms of the cost, in terms of performance, in terms of quality of service, in terms of customer service, and all those things. I think it's important to do because, you know, a poorly chosen property manager can cause you numerous problems, if they don't screen well. And I'm thorough because screening I found is the key. If you mess up on screening, you are dead in the water. You've got the wrong person in your house. It's just a nightmare waiting to happen, and so on. So some management companies they don't do very well. You know, they're poor screening. You know, they're not very responsive to tenant issues. They get to you when you know, get to the tenant whenever they want, and also inadequate in terms of maintenance of the property. And what does this all lead to? It all leads to unhappy tenants, unhappy clients, unhappy customers, and in the worst case, even legal exposure, legal problems, you know, and so on. So it's really important to not fool yourself into thinking that all you got to do is just give it to a management company and then all your problems will be solved. All your problems will go away. It doesn't work that way. It's not as simple as that. There's some good management companies. There's some average ones and there's some really lousy ones as well. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence and hopefully you don't get the lousy ones. You get the good ones and who will also have the same, I don't know, agenda as yours. So what are some of the action items as associated with drawbacks of property management? 3, thoroughly review and compare the fee structures of different management companies and also how transparent they are. You know, not all of them are transparent. Some of them will have hidden fees, which I'm not going to tell you about, especially as it pertains to maintenance and repairs and tenant turnovers and things like that. Another action item is to interview several property management companies and to thoroughly assess whether they're in sync with your goals and, you know, it's a company that you want to do business with. Another action item is to solicit and review references and testimonials from other property owners who use property management companies. So get some referrals, get some recommendations from others in your local area, and then hopefully that will help you in making a better decision whether to manage yourself or whether to outsource it to a third party. Okay, again, we're going to go to Q&A session very shortly. So if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box and I will get to them in about 5 or 10 minutes from now. So if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box and I'll do my best to answer them. Anything to do with real estate, it could be property management, it could be landlord, it could be tenant, it could be rehab, it could be whatever, anything to do with real estate investing. Put your questions in the chat box and I'll do the best that I can to answer them for you. So the third part and the final part is really kind of do the cost benefit analysis. Is it really worth it? And the question here is, how can investors conduct a cost benefit analysis to decide whether it makes sense to use a property management company or whether it doesn't make any sense? So what are some of the cost benefit analysis that you can consider doing to make that decision whether to go or no go. Okay, so deciding whether to hire a management company comes down to a straightforward cost versus benefit analysis. Okay, but the components of this analysis can be quite complex and a little nuanced, a little subjective. And I'll talk about that. So real estate investors need to calculate things like not just the direct cost associated with hiring a property management company, such as things like monthly fees, additional charges for tenant placement or maintenance, but also some of the benefits. Okay, it's not that there's some other things to consider in terms of time saving. You're going to save some time, hopefully, by using a third management company. Hopefully, you'll have increased occupancy rates. They'll leverage their systems to get more, people viewing your houses, going to open houses, and hopefully increasing the occupancy rates. Okay, that's another benefit, and potentially higher rents. I mean, management companies they do their analysis to find out what others are charging, and they'll stay on top of rent increases, and also hopefully better property maintenance of your property. So begin by assessing the total cost of property management services for each property annually. Look at all your portfolio and see what the total costs are and compare this to the benefits. For example, if a property management company can increase the average occupancy rate or even reduce the vacancy time, the time to go, the time between turnovers, okay, through faster tenant placement, then the additional revenue may offset the cost of the service. Okay, so you got a quicker turnover, which means that the time when the property is vacant is going to be less, which means that in theory anyway, you're going to have more revenue, and that can save you and not offset the cost associated with using the management company. Also, another benefit is just by the time saving of not having to deal with this anymore, not having to manage properties, not having to manage tenants directly. These are factors that should be at least considered in a cost benefit analysis. So if freeing your time allows you to focus on other things, especially higher value items, or things like looking for in new properties, new investment opportunities. I mean, now you have more time to do those things, which can generate you even more money, and therefore it's definitely a benefit as opposed to a cost. So you may be able to increase the property's value by having regular maintenance and repairs done on the property and upgrades. You can maybe have more time to do upgrade the appeal of the property, and so on. So there's lots of different things to consider when you do a cost benefit analysis and to make that ultimate decision, go or no go in terms of property management, or just do it ourselves, myself, or whatever it is. So what are some of the action items associated with the cost benefit analysis? Document all the foreseeable costs, associated with hiring a property management company, including the fixed fees and the variable cost. And action number 2 is to estimate the monetary value of benefits like higher occupancy rates, faster turnover, time saved. And, that's something you need to factor in. And the third action item you may want to consider is to factor in intangible benefits, such as, stress reduction, better compliance with local laws, and and so on. So these are some of the gray areas, sort of qualitative factors you may want to consider in terms of whether you do this or not. So in conclusion, kind of wrap it up now, 7:30. What are the overarching lessons about property management companies, and how can real estate investors apply them? So what are the lessons about property management companies, and how can you and I as real estate investor leverage this? One thing that, even if you decide to go with a management company, it doesn't mean that you are totally hands off now. I do believe that it's important that you, quote unquote, manage the managers. Manage the managers, okay? It's not all autopilot. You got to stay on top of these management companies to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. You can't just hand over the keys to them and think that all your problems are going to go away. It just doesn't work that way. So the decision to engage a property management company involves weighing multiple factors, okay, each with significant implications for a real estate investor in terms of time, in terms of finances, and also your overall stress level. Okay, the discussion that I've had today underscore the importance of a balanced approach, recognizing the value add that professional management can have, especially in maximizing your profitability and operational efficiency against potential drawbacks of cost and less personal control over the property dealing. So there are some benefits associated with management, and there's also some downsides as well. So really, as an investor, you got to assess, what makes sense for you. What are the financial considerations? What are the quality of life improvements that can be done? Okay, and can you find anybody who you can entrust? It's not easy. They're out there. The good ones are hard to find, like all things. So the analysis, do your due diligence when selecting a property management company. The right company can indeed, become really a blessing in terms of increasing tenant retention, compliance, and with legal standards, and also with increasing potentially the property value through effective management. So likewise, a poor choice, a bad choice, can lead to a financial drain, legal complications, and also tenant dissatisfaction. All these things can tarnish your reputation, and also it can have an impact on your investment returns. So in moving forward, I think it's really important to evaluate or continuously evaluate the performance of property management companies, and then make the decision that makes the most sense for you. If you have to switch companies, then so be it. You can also renegotiate terms of the existing one if you already have one, or you can say, no, I'm going to do it myself, and you can take back those responsibilities and duties back to yourself. So the dynamic nature of real estate investing, it does require you to have some flexibility and a willingness to adjust course as and when necessary. And but in general, hopefully I've shared with you some of the pros, some of the cons, and some of the considerations that will help you make a decision as to whether to outsource property management or do it yourself. I do it all myself. It's not a big deal. If you got the right systems in place, you get the right tenants in place, it's not that bad. But if you don't have the right systems, don't have the right tenants in place, it can be a nightmare. And, it could be a burden that you don't want to, let bog you down too much. So with that said, my friend, that's pretty much it's at the end of today's Wealth Wednesday. Hopefully that was helpful at 7:35. And so if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box, and I will try to answer them very, very shortly. And as always, please put them in. Let me know who you are, where you're tuning in from. Let me know, where you're, what city or state that you're in, so I can give you a little shout out to your community. And like always, if you want to shoot me an email, you can email me at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. And also, if you want to book a one-on-one with me, I do have this Ask Dr. Joe. You can go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com, and you can schedule a one-on-one with me. It is a paid service, just full transparency, but it's definitely worth it. I've got another one tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that one with Ike, and looking forward to helping you, Ike. And I've also done quite a few with other people as well. They're really, really good sessions. It gives me a chance to deep dive and really understand your situational problems or challenges that you're experiencing, and then I can add my thoughts and hopefully help you, sort of achieve your goals, whatever those goals may be, real estate or otherwise. Okay, so let's get down to the comments for today. Okay, let's have a look. Greetings from Phoenix. Hi, Datu. Hope you're doing well in Phoenix. And congratulations to Mr. Femi. Yes, congratulations, Femi. Financial firefighter from Hawaii. Oh, aloha. Okay, all right. I haven't been to Hawaii in a long time. I went to Maui on my honeymoon, I think. Could you please share how many occupants were approved for Femi's 6-bedroom house, and if larger houses are highly sought after among vouchers holders in the DC area, and why that may be the case? Thank you. Get Loibster. How many occupants were approved? I don't have his application or the family that's applied, but I think they had. Well, the bottom line is they had a 6-bedroom voucher, and in DC, wherever you are, the housing authority determines how a person gets a voucher. It's usually based on their income, and it's also based on the number of occupants in the house. Now, in some jurisdictions, a male and a female, if once they reach a certain age, usually about 2 or 3, are supposed to have separate rooms. But in other jurisdictions, they don't care. If it's a male and female, they go to share the room. So again, that will determine the number of occupants. So it's a policy at the local level that will determine if you have a family of, let's just say, 6 people, what size voucher will they get? Typically, especially in DC, is going to depend on the age and the sex of the occupants. And they don't, in DC anyway, allow a male and female to share the same room. Whereas in other jurisdictions, like in Maryland, they don't care, they do. So I think maybe 6 or 8 people were approved on Femi's tenants voucher tenant. But the bottom line is they had a 6-bedroom voucher, which was issued to them. And what I found is that in the DC area, he didn't have a problem finding a tenant. He had multiple applications, and he decided to select this family, really good family, and think he's going to be very pleased with them. And so he's wrapping up that process and getting ready to refinance so he can get on with the next house. And again, it's a journey, but he's definitely made it. And in DC anyway, there is a demand for 6-bedroom houses and so on. So Karen P, good evening, Joe and friends. I am starting my property management business. It's the challenges that investors don't want to deal with. The headaches is where I come in. Yes, good point, Karen. It's the challenges, and not everybody wants to deal with tenants. Not everybody wants to deal with tenants, toilets, and trash, as they say. They rather focus on other things, and so there's a role for property management companies. They serve a purpose, and so if you don't have the personality, if you don't have the time, if you don't have the wherewithal to do this, it may be in your interest to outsource it to a third party like Karen. I don't know much about Karen. Hopefully, Karen's a great property management property manager. But if she is great, if she's not, then obviously you may want to keep shopping until you find somebody. But there's a role for them. That's the important thing. And I would strongly suggest that if you have a portfolio, especially if you decide to grow your portfolio, now is the time to start looking, interviewing, researching property management companies in your local area to see if it makes any sense. Hi, Joe. With the new guidelines for the Section 8 program, this is from Frank. Hey, Frank. Hope you're doing well. And in DC, with the new guidelines for Section 8, is it as lucrative for investors? What strategy do you recommend? Do you know how DCHA is selecting comparables? Thanks, Frank. Yeah. Good questions, Frank. So this is more specific to Washington, D.C. Again, depending on where you are, the policies on the local level, at the housing authority level, may be slightly different. So let's go through the questions that Frank posed me. With the new guidelines in Section 8, is it lucrative for investors? It yes and no. The rules have changed, and before it was based mainly on neighborhoods. So rents in neighborhood A would all be the same. The only difference would be the number of bedrooms. So a 3 bedroom would be less rent than a 4 bedroom, which would be less rent from a 5 bedroom. But as long as they're in the same neighborhood, then the rates are the same. Now they changed that in DC anyway last year, so it's no longer neighborhood based. They use a different metric now. They use more comparables, and they have a website where you can plug in your address, number of bedrooms, and they'll tell you what the market will bear for for your property. So there are definitely winners and losers in this new environment. I think, obviously, me, I'm looking to be a winner. And I think I've got some ideas on how to become winners in this new environment. So it can be lucrative for investors, but then again, it cannot be. It just depends on whether you understand, the new rules, and hopefully you can sort of work within the confines of the new rules to make a positive outcome for you. So I think I'm in the process trying to figure that out. And but again, it just depends. I think it's still a great program. There's a bureaucracy you got to deal with at the housing authority level, but that's any government agency. But it can be lucrative if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it could be a nightmare. So, what strategy do you recommend? That's a whole nother discussion. I still believe in, buying a house, adding a number of bedrooms, and therefore one asset could be a 3 bedroom for one person, add another bedroom for four. So you get more rents, number of bedrooms. And that strategy, obviously, is what I've been doing in the past, and I'm going to continue doing that. In the DC area, there aren't a whole lot of 4, 5, and 6 bedroom houses. Most of them are 3 bedrooms. And so that's the niche which I focus on. It's the 4, 5, 6 bedrooms. But again, it depends on the location and how much it's going to cost to renovate the house. So last part is, do you know how DCHA is selecting comparables? Yes, they're using a website, which you plug in the address, and they will then, and the number of bedrooms in your property, and then they'll estimate. I'm sorry. Oh, what? I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning. So they'll then, give you an idea how much they'll pay, what the market is for that area. So hopefully that was helpful, Frank. And let's have a look. Think like you got another one. On another note, since you're managing your properties with your systems, approximately how much time do you spend a week managing your properties? That's a good question. It depends. It depends on the type of tenants that you have. If you got tier 1 tenants, these are the tenants that's going to take care of your property, pay the rent, no drama, and hopefully looking to stay a long time. Those people don't require a lot of time. There are months, weeks that I don't communicate with tenants because there's nothing's going on. Everything's going on with the property. They're happy there. There's no complaints. They're paying the rent, and so there's not a lot of time. But if you don't select the right tenants, it can be very, very time consuming. It can be very labor intensive. It can be very frustrating. So I would say, in terms of answering your question, how much time does it take? I think it depends on the quality of the tenants that you select as part of the screening process. That's why all roads go back down to screening. If you can screen well, then it doesn't require a lot of time. It's a very pleasant experience. If you cannot screen well, or you get a tenant from hell that sneaks in, oh boy, that is, I wouldn't want to wish that on anybody. It's very frustrating. caller ID is your best friend because you say, "Oh my God, what do they want this time?" Some people are just never satisfied, and so yeah, so it depends on the type of screening that you have, the systems in place, the property, whether it's in a lot of deferred maintenance or whether everything's been upgraded. So a lot of different things. But if you get good tier one tenants, in my opinion, they don't require much time. Neil Andrews, hey Joe in North Carolina, hey, kind of a hot market. Good for you. How much monthly profit would you deem worth it to pursue property management versus selling a house? How much monthly profit would you deem it worth it to pursue property management versus selling a house? Okay, so the issue, Neil, is that you bought a house, and depending on where you are, whether you're in an appreciating market or whether you're in a cash flow market or some kind of hybrid, an appreciating market is a market whereby over time, history shows us that prices tend to increase. There are some areas where 5-10 years from now, the prices are going to be around the same. They just don't appreciate. They tend to be lower priced. And so you get a better chance of cash flow, but you're not going to get much in terms of appreciation. And flip side, there are some markets where history tells us you'll get some appreciation, but they're expensive. Washington, D.C. is an example. It's expensive to get in here. History shows us that it's an appreciating market, but if you're not careful, you don't get the cash flow because it's so expensive. And so what I try to do is to get the best of both worlds, both cash flow and appreciation. So how much monthly profit would you deem worth it? It depends on you. If you're in the growth phase if you don't have any other source of income, Neil, and you've got to pay your electric bill, your car note, and your food from your rents, then you need a lot of cash flow. But if your cash flow needs, your cash needs are met elsewhere through other streams, for example, a job, or maybe a house hack somewhere else, then you can have the luxury of riding out the storm, taking a more long-term approach. But you've taken care of your day-to-day living expenses through other channels, whether it be a job or other things. So I don't like to sell because I believe that over time prices will increase, and I like to sell later as opposed to now. So I'm not really into flipping, Neil. So I do believe, depending on the market that you're in, there are definitely benefits associated with holding on to the property and either managing it yourself or giving it to a third-party property management company versus just selling. If you sell, yeah, you get some quick cash, but there's some, capital gains you have to reckon with. And that's why a lot of people like 1031 exchanges or other ways to defer the capital gain. Marlon, congrats, Femi. Yes, congratulations, Femi. Bell Dyson, do you charge tenants for parking, garage, or storage? Typically, I have single-family houses, so I don't normally charge them for parking because it's usually the property either has parking or it doesn't, or may have some off-street parking, or you could be in an area whereby there's a parking, but you somehow figure out a way to charge for parking or storage as well. I don't really get into that, Dell, but I know that if your focus is on increasing the income from your property, then these are strategies that you may want to consider in terms of there could be additional income streams for parking, garage, or storage. Okay, Lobster, what are your lease terms on repairs caused by tenant, e.g. clogged drain from toilet being flushed? Who is responsible for footing the bill? Thank you. That's a good question. In theory, depending on your lease, if it's a tenant caused problem, for example, a toilet being flushed down a toy being flushed down the toilet, that is definitely not normal wear and tear. So it's up to you at this point. You can get it fixed and charge the tenant, or you can get it fixed, speak to the tenant and tell them, please don't flush anything beyond toilet paper down these toilets, and eat the cost this time around, but maybe next time around you charge them. So that's a fair balance. Kind of some education. I would also go on YouTube, and some tenants just don't understand, don't know the do's and don'ts of of these kind of things. So there could be some YouTube videos which talk about this, which you can forward to the tenants, and therefore they can become educated. I've done that quite a few times, especially things like water bills. If we get a high water bill, I've got a couple of YouTube videos which I send to the tenant, which helps them educate the reasons for high water bill and what they can do to identify the source of the high water bill. So it's up to you. Technically, if it's their responsibility, if the problem was tenant caused, then you can charge them, as long as your lease allows you to do so. Marlon, good evening, Dr. Joe. Good evening to you, sir. In Hawaii, she's in Hawaii, but she invests in Pittsburgh. Okay, there's a big difference in Hawaii and Pittsburgh. Anyway, I hope you are doing fine in Hawaii. I'm not really too familiar with the Pittsburgh market for real estate, so maybe you can educate me on that one, as well. So, Bell, do you charge tenants for garage storage or parking? I think I've answered that question. I don't, because I have single family houses. Mr. Casino Chips, do you charge tenants? I might get the same question all the time. This is the third time someone's asked this question. Bell asked this question, and now it looks like Mr. Casino Chips. Again, I don't normally charge because it's all usually included. But if you are able to charge, then it may make sense. Do you install garbage disposals, incinerators in kitchen sinks? Do you use waterless heating tanks or ground tanks? Okay. Yes, I have garbage disposal in all my properties in the sink. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard here in the DC area. So I know that some landlords don't do that, don't provide it. I do. And most tenants, I think, are used to, at least in this area, are used to garbage disposal. They understand how it works and how to unstop them, unclog them. Again, if they don't know, you can educate them on some YouTube videos. So I do install garbage disposals in my properties. Next question. Do you use waterless heating tanks or ground tanks? I use the ground tanks, the regular standard ground tanks. Depending on the size of the house, it could be 40 gallons or 50 gallons, gas or electric. I do. I haven't used the heating tank, the one that the waterless ones, the one that goes on the wall. Not for any reasons. It's just that I just haven't used them. Alvin. Hey, Alvin. Hope you're doing well. If a property management outsources repairs, is it common for them to charge the landlord an additional fee above the repairs? Yes. Repairs is a common, what they call a profit center for these property management companies. So they make a little bit, they charge $1 and charge the owner $1 plus. It may be 5%, 10%, 20% on top of whatever they are billed for. So it can be a profit center, which they're going to charge you for it. So it's going to eat into your profits. And there are multiple profit centers that property management companies have. One's the repairs, one is the turnover costs, and they typically keep the security deposit. And again, they have to live. But they are profit centers, and all the profit centers are coming out of your pocket. So it's a cost to you. And it's your call whether it's worthwhile. Who pays for utilities? All my properties, I do not pay utilities. They're all houses and single family houses. They control, the tenant controls the thermostat. And therefore, because they control the thermostat, they're responsible for the bill. I'm not a great fan of paying someone's utility bills, because what's going to happen, what's going to happen. If you pay the water bill, they're going to do a side hustle on a car wash business. If you pay for certain things, they'll do a side. I mean, if people don't, you'll go to the house, it's, hot outside, the AC's blasting, the windows are open, because they don't care, because you're the one paying the bill, not them. But what I found is that if people are paying the bill, they tend to be a lot more considerate in terms of usage. So I never pay tenant bills, especially since I have, single family houses and they control all those things. Let's have a look. So who pays utilities? Another question. Okay, if I've got a couple more minutes. If we're going to wrap it up. So if you got a question, please put it in quickly before I wrap it up for the day. It's now about 7:58. Mr. Casino Chips, do you set a preset temperature on the water so tenants don't burn themselves? Yes, on a hot water heater, you can sort of set the temperature to low, middle, or high. And typically I put mine on around middle, so it's not too cold, not too hot. So to answer your question, do you set a preset? Yeah, you can control that on your hot water. Usually at the bottom of the hot water heater, there's like a dial, a thermostat, which you can sort of regulate how hot the water is. Obviously, the hotter it is, the more it's going to cost to heat. So it's going to be a bit more expensive. But yeah, I do. I explain to the tenants how to adjust it if necessary. Are townhouses better, Mr. Casino Chips? Are townhouses better than single family houses? It depends. I have all mine are single family, which means that they're either row houses, semi-detached, i.e. there's somebody on one side but nobody on the other side, or they could be completely detached, i.e. there's nobody on either side. So it just depends. Are they better? It depends on, I think ultimately most tenants will prefer to live in a single family house detached where there's no neighbors next to them. But they're more expensive, and it's but yeah, are they better? I don't know. It just depends on your situation. I have a lot of row houses in Washington, D.C. Most of the houses here are row houses or townhouses, I suppose. They got neighbors on both sides, so that's connected. But I think the gold standard is detached single family houses. But that's not always realistic, especially if you're starting out, because they cost more. Mr. Casino says less maintenance. Yeah, possibly less maintenance, but it still costs money. What's going to run your maintenance bills are your systems, the electrical, plumbing, heating. Those systems are, and the roof and things like that. Okay, it is now 8 o'clock, my friends. I'm going to wrap it up for the day. I hope today was a helpful Wealth Wednesday. And again, if you would like one-on-one time with me, please go to my website, joeasimo.com, and you can press the button that says Ask Dr. Joe, Ask Dr. Joe. And definitely worth it. We can deep dive into a situation and a problem. The other thing is that on the Wealth Wednesdays, I can only spend a few minutes on your issue or your challenge, whereas on the one-on-one, we can really go deep. We can spend an hour, just you and I, trying to address some of the problems, challenges, and difficulties that you may be experiencing in your real estate. So book it an hour with me. Otherwise, shoot me an email. Otherwise, we shall see each other next Wednesday on Wealth Wednesday. So you have yourself a wonderful evening. Take care. Bye for now.